18th. It's 5:30, so I will call upon Pastor Tim Altler for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear God, we gather before you today as leaders and citizens of this community, seeking your guidance and wisdom as we work together for the betterment of our community. We ask that you would bless the City Council meeting with collaboration, wisdom, and a spirit of unity. We pray for the Liberty Beacon in this community, Lord, that we would continue to be known for what we're for. We pray that you would continue to help our children in the community feel safe and they continue to learn, Lord, with hearts filled with wonder and excitement for the future. We thank you for those in our community that serve and protect us, including our brave police officers, our first responders, our firefighters. May their selfless dedication be a shining example of hope and security for our community. We also, Lord, pray for economic growth and prosperity in our city, that new opportunities and development may bring a benefit to all. We thank you for our city staff and the work crews who work tirelessly behind the scenes to help keep our community thriving. Lord, we thank you for those who are here to serve tonight, entrusted by voters. May they continue to uphold the constitutions of the United States, the state of Minnesota, and the charter of the city of Fergus Falls. We pray that the discussions tonight, Lord, would be respectful, the decisions would be just, and the actions would be guided by the well-being of all. God, we ask that you would continue to bless the people of Fergus Falls and the future of our community. Ultimately, we remember the example and service and sacrifice, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. May we be inspired to follow in his footsteps, serve others with humility and love and compassion and integrity. And may your unwavering love and truth be our guide now and forevermore. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Fish is absent. Joe.
Here.
Kwame.
Here.
Waiton.
Yes.
Greenmeyer.
Here.
Mortensen.
Here.
Rachels.
Here.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is open forum. If anybody wishes to address the council on a subject that's not already on the agenda, it's a good opportunity to do that. Good evening.
Mayor, council people, I've been following my name is Dwayne Cookman. I live here in Fergus Falls, Stanton Avenue. I've been following the council, because my biggest interest at the time was Glacier Edge Trail, and that's one of my questions tonight. But following the agenda, or following the progress, if possible, I have a request. Can we get old business, like we have new business, old business? Can we get old business listed? I would like updates, and I know that you can only ask like twice, a year, or that is what had been mentioned in past. Okay, but can we get updates on the old dairy property? Okay, because I know the Glacier Edge Trail is going to be going through there. I know that there's railroad crossings. And then, is there any outstanding cost associated with that? I think the railroad crossings, if I recall, it was tied to something for like $47,000. But what are all the associated costs? And what is going to be coming up? Right next to that, 801 West Stanton. Is there, I think, Rachel's, you said that was probably getting pretty close to being cleaned up this last fall. Is there any outstanding costs? And is there a time frame associated with any of that grant money? Is it tied specifically to housing? Is it tied specifically to a function. Bigwood Event Center. Okay, kind of looked at Bill's layout. Did that actual cost go up from 120, our out of pocket that went from the liquor store funds to support this? Did it go up from 125,000 to 150,000? And where is Leighton Broadcasting? You know, they said they were going to share some costs. Where is that coming in play? RTC, what is the plan? And what is the projected cost on that? Golf course? I didn't see that. I don't think I saw that on. I think there's going to be resolution for the rates tonight, but what is the plan for that? Is there more meetings? Are we going to renegotiate for a year? Are we looking at perhaps new management? What are our different options? The Aquatic Center, what's going to be the cost of that? Is there any private industry that wants to add money to that and put their name on it, something like, you know, like you have racetrack out there, you have a placard out there, okay? Can we get private industry that wants to advertise their name? Splash Center. De Lagoon Park. What's the outstanding costs out there? What's our projected revenue? What plans do we have? And I listened to an hour of Ben slamming you guys. And I'm just like, I think it's time for him to be quiet. I think he got voted out. Give this council some time. My example is, if you killed all the chickens, do you think the price of eggs go up? Because I think that just happened. Now you're blaming somebody else for something. Can we get updates at least once a month on these items that I listed? Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. On the dairy property, that'll come up later today, this evening. So, yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Deb Zachman. I live here in the city, and just wanted to mention a couple of things. It would be really wonderful if everybody would speak into their microphone. I know yours, Rolf, is to the side, and I have a hard time hearing because I wear 2 hearing aids. And so if everybody would speak into their microphone, I would sure appreciate it. Another thing is, I think at the last meeting, there was someone from the city, I can't remember, obviously very knowledgeable about what they were talking about, but maybe for that reason they spoke really fast. And so for those of us in the audience who don't have all that information, it sure would be nice if it would be a little slower pace. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Your Honor, the audio in the room is being worked on. So,
No, it's more about it being to one side or towards you.
they're working on more speakers.
Thank you.
Your Honor, to that end, Councilmember Layton and others, there'll be a proposal at the committee of the whole meeting next week to that end. So I appreciate you bringing that up because that is in the works.
Hi, my name is Kate. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. My name is Kate. I live in town here. And I was reading the minutes of the last meeting, and I was concerned about a couple of things, fiscal things. One was that there would be a $7,000 output to a lawyer that was brought up to come to the meeting of the council. And I wasn't quite sure why that needed to happen when the lawyer had sort of specifically said hey, I'm happy to come to that meeting, but I'm not going to be able to offer any advice. I'd have to go back to my office, look at things, yada, yada. So I'm curious why we would pay them $7,000 to show up at a meeting where they don't have any input at the time. You could just
Can I answer?
run something by them.
Yeah, if I may answer?
Yeah.
They declined that,
Okay,
so that isn't happening.
thank you. My other concern was the issue with the newspaper. And I was kind of confused by that because there were a few things. One was that the newspaper has been around for 150 years, and the newspaper lawyer had said, yes, it meets the qualifications it's supposed to. And I was curious as to why that needed to be looked at. Sorry, I'm really nervous, so I'm all over the place. I apologize. And so I was curious what was so bad about the paper. It might be lazy, it lacks innovation and depth, but it's not nefarious. It's not trying to pull one over on anyone. Plus, I think we're in a situation where we have to put the city council information in a publication of some sort, and if that publication it's the only publication available. So what happens? And so if we take the $5,000 that it would roughly take to look into the newspaper, and we find that there's no problem with it, actually, well, then we've just wasted $5,000 of my money. And if you do find something wrong with the newspaper, well, then that's sort of a can of worms that just keeps, like, how deep does it go? So I figured if people were concerned about the newspaper and they wanted to kind of go down the hysterical track, they could sell some furniture or use bonus check money or something, and they could look into it. But I prefer that it not be done with my money. So, thank you.
Rob, did you want to probably give an update on where we're at with that on the Daily Journal
Sure.
process?
I sent with an update regarding it's called a declaratory action, and it's to have a judge determine whether the newspaper meets the qualifications of state statute to be a qualified legal newspaper, which the city needs confidence in to ensure that its publications are going to be follow law. You know, that we have to utilize a qualified newspaper for public notices and the like. So the update is that I've been in contact with the Daily Journal's attorney. We are working together on a joint petition to try to save money and to try to put this on the fast track in the judicial system for judicial economy and try to keep this on track for the court to make a decision. Now, it's the council that has directed me to do this, okay? And in part, the council had some concerns about the new format of the newspaper and whether
There's staples in it, or what does the new format mean?
well, I'm just telling you what the council has indicated to me, is that the new format, whether or not that, in fact, from a 2 times a week format, newspaper style with columns versus more of a news mag format, whether that complies with the statute or not, we don't know. And so the question that is being posed is whether or not the newspaper meets all of the statutory requirements. The statute allows for interested parties to bring such an action, and that's what the council has directed me to do.
Okay. And this is the council, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys have an answer to that question then?
I think.
They changed format, so they added staples and a little bit more puff piece, right?
Yep.
Is that the format change you're talking about? I'm confused.
It was, I think, the general kind of consensus about the Daily Journal changing from being kind of obviously bi-weekly to weekly.
Okay.
That was and then that though there was no absolute determination in the newspaper that it was, you know, a bona fide daily or weekly newspaper for the region.
So the U.S., like the newspaper lawyers and whatnot of national newspapers, do they have anything in play that says if you only publish once a week, you are no longer a valid paper? Do they not have
That
structures?
is the whole purpose of the
Okay.
determination.
Okay. So we're the first county, city that's ever happened in?
I think Rolf said that there's been other challenges to newspapers. We're not the first people doing this.
Okay. And part of me up here is letting you know I don't want hysterics.
Yep.
No hysterics. Not with my money. I'm tired of it. No hysterics. Stop. We're watching you. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? I know Dwayne on some of these things got covered on the Wednesday morning committee of the whole. I don't know if you saw that. Or we can get you a copy of Andrew's presentation on that too. Just as an FYI.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Right. Would you have something you want to address?
Please. Actually, my name is Shannon, and good evening. I actually am here completely impulsively in this very moment. But I just wanted to ask whether, is concealed carry allowed in this space? If you have a permit, that it's allowed to be brought into the council. Okay, and does anybody know what that is, the answer to that is like regarding school board meetings? It's held in a school, so I don't know if that would define it or not.
Your Honor, may I speak to this? As a handgun carry instructor, you cannot carry in a school. I've clarified with Chief Bergen that the council, you can carry conceal. Of course, you
But
have
at
to
the
be
school
legal.
board, you cannot.
No school property, correct.
Right, okay.
No federal property, no state property.
So you too
courthouses.
then have learned something.
Pardon me?
You too then have learned something. I come here because my concern is that there was apparently a council member that came to the school board meeting with a weapon and was asked to remove it. So I just wanted to clarify where it was allowed and where it was not allowed. And I don't know, in any misunderstanding with, anything having to do with schools or extracurricular activities where students and sports are involved, I don't know why anyone would know that, but that's just my opinionated opinion. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to approval of the agenda. And I know council members Scott Kwame has asked that item 9 of the consent agenda be pulled to be discussed. Were there any other additions or subtractions from the agenda? Do you have anything, Andrew?
No, it's just that one.
Right. With that, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda with that one amendment.
I'll make that a motion. I'll second.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Al. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is approved. The next item is public hearings, of which we have none, and we have no bids to award, and we have no petitions or communication. The next item is the consent agenda, listing obviously on the board everything all but number 9. So if there are no additional questions or conversations about that, we'd look for a resolution to approve the consent. Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Thank you, Laurel. A roll call.
Sylvie,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Leighton,
Yep.
Freemeyer.
Yes.
Mortensen.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution is approved. The next item was Councilmember Kwame regarding the varied library policies. There's multiple of them. Scott?
Thank you. The library, as I understand it, every year will, or every so often, I'm not certain that it's every year, but it may be at least every year, maybe more often, will review their various policies, and we have a package of them, a group of them, that are presented tonight to be approved. About a month ago, or at our last meeting, they had also brought forward policies to be approved, and among them was one called the art policy. And I had a question about that and asked that that be removed and sent back to them for review.
And so now this new group of policies before us tonight includes an artist display contract policy, but it does not include that art policy that I had a question about in the first place. The puzzlement here is the artist display contract policy that's included in the group tonight refers to the art policy that we had a question about last time around. And so the motion that I would bring tonight would be to set this aside until the library has a chance to complete their work on the review of the art policy and then bring this package back for approval at a later date. As I understand it, when they were looking to review the art policy at their February meeting, they chose to table it to a future meeting. And so I think it would just make sense, since we've got one policy referring to another and this package is incomplete, that we just set this aside as well and bring it up when the package is complete at a later date.
Do we wish to continue with the other policies as people have read them? Or
Yeah,
hopefully read
I
them?
think that there'd be a rationale for that, but taking them a piece at a time versus just taking them as a group, I think it's just simpler and cleaner to just take them as a group when they're all ready, rather than parcel it out. But I wouldn't be opposed to doing what the council chooses to do in this case.
Anybody else got thoughts?
Is there a time frame, Your Honor, on behalf of Gail from the library, that she would prefer, or her board would prefer, to have these approved sooner than when they have a chance to bring the art policy to us?
Mayor, Council, thank you. Yeah, the library board decided at the last meeting to not rush through the policy, but to give it some contemplative thought and look at some options. And so it'll take a couple of months, because all policies receive at least 2 readings when they're altered. We aren't on a time frame to have all of the policies approved, but we would like to get the work done. So if they could get approved and we could move forward, I try maybe quarterly to bring policies forward, just depending on how many things are changed at board meetings. So it is kind of an ongoing process, but your decision. Thank you.
Your Honor, just a question for you. Gail, I appreciate your comments. Did you, and I might not have heard you right, did you say the board decided to wait or hold on or?
Right. So it wasn't on our original agenda to talk about it, because we had moved it forward. So I let them know a few days before the meeting we would add it to our agenda to discuss. And so not really a lot of time to give it thought and think it through and work on it. Additionally, our board president was absent due to illness, so we wanted to make sure that he was present as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So would somebody care to make a resolution regarding something?
I'll make a resolution.
I guess I thought my resolution was to set this aside until further.
I interpret it as a motion to table.
Okay.
Correct.
And so, okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Scott. So, roll call.
It can be all the.
Oh, it can be a motion? Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign.
Aye.
Motion is approved, so there you go, it gets set aside. The next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the 2025 Pebble Lake Golf Course rates. So we will call upon members of the golf fraternity to step forward.
Greetings, Mayor Hicks, Council. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kevin Swenson. I'm the Director of Golf at Pebble Lake Golf Club, and is my 10th year coming into this season. 2 things tonight. I only get to come once a year, this time of year, to talk to you folks about our stats and our highlights from last season, and then get the rates approved for the 2025 season. It's just a bunch of numbers that you guys understand what kind of traffic we have at the golf course. This past season, we had a total of 27,988 rounds. Rounds meaning that is a golfer that comes to play golf at our golf course, compared to 28,747 rounds last season. We had 23,352 rounds back in 2022, And 9 years ago, my first year, we had 13,000 rounds. So we've grown rapidly over the last 9 years and continue to see growth. There were just over 11,000 people that used our driving range practice facilities. We had 308 season pass holders in 2024 compared to 315 in 2023, and a season pass holder is considered a paid household. In a paid household, some of those folks have kids and spouses that play golf, which makes it, we track 351 playing members last year versus 373 playing season pass holders in 2023. So growth in our consistency in our season pass holders as well. I had 118 kids in my kids camp. I had 13 folks go through the community ed lessons and learn how to play golf. The golf course was open for 184 days last year compared to 183 days in prior year. We opened on April 10th last season and we closed on the 20th of October. I think we would have been open longer last year. We opened on April 10th compared to later April previous year. But we also had to deal with 38 inches of rain last year, which closed us down 23 days of our season. So that definitely hurt us a little bit. We hosted 47 golf events last year, and it was also our third straight year that Pebble Lake Golf Club was the Best of Otter Tail County award winner for Best Golf Restaurant Facility. So we're very proud of that, and we're very thankful that Palmer's Bar and Grill was once again hit it out of the park with their service and food. Other than that, that's kind of the highlights from last year. We're looking forward to a good season this year. We went through a lot of changes last year and some drama a little bit, but overall last year was a home run. Rates, I think you guys got a copy of the rates. Basically, our season passes, we are increasing 5% over previous year, 2025 versus 2024. Our daily fees, which is the people that come in and buy green fees, rent carts, use the driving range, those fees are going up $1. So that is kind of what we do every year. Our carts and whatever else amenities are staying the same as 2024. Those are not going to be increased. So I'm looking for an approval this evening for the 2025 rates so we can finish building our business plan.
Somebody care to offer the resolution, and then we can
I'll
ask
make a
questions.
motion to approve the rates as
I'll
presented.
second that.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Laurel. Any questions of Kevin?
Yeah, Your Honor, I appreciate it. Say, Kevin, I appreciate you being here and presenting here tonight. Just a couple of questions so I start to learn on my end. How do your rates compare to your competitors in the county?
We compare ourselves to, of course, Tipson and Mounds, Balmoral. Those courses see a lot of people. They're cheaper than we are currently. When we get voted on the best venue, we're comparable to Thumper Pond, Perham. Those are kind of similar facilities, offer the same amenities, that type of thing, and we are in the middle of the road.
In the middle of the road.
I can speak to that, so I just pulled up the number quick. Gossi, the president of the board, so on
Can you
average, we had
can you approach the mic, please?
Yep. So on average, so I just pulled these up because Kevin didn't have the email pulled up, which I just did while you asked that question. So on average, we had 6 courses that we pulled. Competitive average was $1,425.40 for a single pass. We're at $1,270, so we're $155.40 less than 6 courses within 60 miles, I think is what we did, 65 miles, somewhere in there. So less overall, but we're higher on other areas which is not a part of the city approval, for example, like trail fees and so forth. So we're within the ballpark, but under on annual passes, if that answers your question.
Yeah, so how does it put what I'm looking for, and I appreciate all of that. That's more than even what I could imagine getting. But who's your main competitor? Who are your 1, 2, and 3s that really are taking your business? And are you priced similar to them, or are they completely different type of golf course? Where are we losing people to?
I would say Balmoral is a direct competitor because of the proximity.
Okay.
Same with Tips and Mounds. Balmoral sees more traffic because of the lake. They're right in the heart of the lakes versus there's a little more travel time to us. The amenities that we offer, full service restaurant, I'm being biased, but a better golf course, better
good.
condition. And our carts are top of the line compared to a lot of the golf courses. So I think it's a matter of what those golfers are looking for and what they want to get out of their day.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think the best answer to that maybe with what Kevin just said is proximity to where they are. Green fees are, most people are at where on the weekends around this area? Lakes, right? So if they can drive 15 minutes to Balmoral or they're gonna drive 45 here, but we see a lot of our traffic due to Kevin's staff is from the Fargo area, even on the weekend. And that's where we get a lot of our green fees from, is from some of those players. So I wouldn't say we have a lot of direct competition because the nearest is Boyd de Sioux and Wahpeton, where most of those people are loyal members, right? And most people here that are staying at Detroit Lakes or Otter Tail area, they just don't want to drive this far. So on weekends, competition I don't think is really there, but yeah, I don't know. So golf's a hard industry that way.
Yeah, and I won't take all your time, but do you have numbers of who goes through Balmoral compared to numbers who goes through you? Or is that something you're not able to get to? Is it 3 times the amount, 10 times the amount?
I would have to do a little digging.
Okay.
I don't have
And
those
the main goal, what I'm looking at is what are you guys thinking of doing to draw those people from the competitors, whether it's Boyd de Sioux, whether it's these other things? What are we doing to bring them to the Fergus Falls course? Because I think the course is great. I don't golf, but I've talked to everybody about it, and it's a mature course. Everything's good about it. What do we do to bring them here?
I do a lot of trading with advertising, especially in the Fargo market.
Okay.
Because they don't have enough golf courses there, so we do get a lot of traffic from the Fargo area, and they do have lake property around. I do a lot of trading through Leighton Broadcasting for radio time, that type of thing. So I think between social media and radio, and then I also put Pebble Lake onto the WDAY golf card, and as well as the flag.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
890.
So big push up to Fargo, and that's why you're looks like it's successful the way it sounds that they're coming from there. Have we ever pushed into the Lakes area to try to draw them? Have we ever done that?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
We used to be in the resorter and did not get a lot of feedback from that. We do advertise with the Otter Tail County Lakes Association, or Lakes, through their production and as well as their social media.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Do you track people coming in as to where they're from?
We just upgraded our system last year, so we are capable to start pulling zip codes.
Yep.
Out of our, just for an example, out of our 27,988 rounds last year, 7,125 of those rounds came from people driving in guest play.
Yep. I used to spend a lot of money on golf, and I knew I was terrible at it, so I'm a better businessman than a golfer. I truly believe that the golf course is a wonderful asset. Coming from southern Minnesota, I know a lot of guys would come up here and watch it. Mr. Mortensen, I don't know if it's really a competition. Guys that are going out on the weekends are just going to pick a different golf course. That's my opinion. This week we're going to go to Fergus. Next week we're going to go to. If the boys are on the round, they're going to hit different shops. Keep up the good work. It's a great course. I support you. Good job.
Do you see D Lagoon being an asset for the golf course? So let's say if there's a family that doesn't all golf, if they're going to be out, some could be at the lake, some could be at the golf course, some could be over at, some event at the softball fields or baseball fields. Mm-hmm. So do you see that as an asset? Has that been pushed at all?
I would say in the last few years it hasn't been pushed hard, but with the upgrades that are going on, I think it can be used as an asset, as a marketing. This is what we offer. Maybe do, I was just thinking about some sort of like a play and stay with the campground.
Mm-hmm.
If that starts bringing in the number of campers you're hoping.
Right.
We could do something like that. I do offer something like that through the Country and Suites, a play and stay. If people stay there, they can come out and play at a discounted rate and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things we can do for sure to push that.
I think it's a great area to feed off of each other out there. I think that's a perfect opportunity, once this gets kind of revamped a little bit. I think that would be a great thing. Thanks.
Your Honor, I have a question. Is there anything that the city can do? You're not here that often. I would agree the social media that Jen has done has been really good out there. I'm not a golfer either, but I see that. Is there anything the city can do to support? I mean, obviously we want to increase your revenue, let you be able to do more things. What can we do as a council or as a city to support you more or to allow for more growth?
Write checks. Yeah, projects, but
Okay, other than money.
I'll invite all of
no.
you to come out and see it. A lot of you don't come out to see it. You got to come out and see it. And Anthony comes out and has dinner once in a while on Sundays, and we get to see him and stuff. But you're all invited to come out and
Maybe we could have a council meeting at Palmer's.
yeah, for sure. So you're all invited all the time.
Right. Well, I think congratulations on your 10 years, and probably as people know, I was one of the most kind of negative people about the golf course when I first joined council, because it was a black hole that we just kept pouring money in, and since Kevin and his team have taken over, then it's turned the golf course around. So, congratulations on your managing ability.
Thanks.
And getting that hole in one on more occasions. And it's good that it's an asset of the city, and it's good that it basically funds itself. And that's down to you and your staff that have kept the course well maintained and keep those people coming back to play more. So with that, we have a resolution for the golf course fees. So roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin and Dusty. The next item on the agenda is a resolution accepting the dairy property transfer from the Fergus Falls Port Authority. Obviously, this was kind of discussed in the Port Authority, so I will call upon, which hat are you wearing, the Community Development or the Port Authority?
Community development.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this was discussed at the Port Authority meeting, as well as this is a transaction between the Port Authority and the City of Fergus Falls. The Port Authority is currently the owner of the old dairy site, is what we call it, and along the river, a river buffer parcel has been carved out of that. The discussion all the way along has been that there would be a transaction between the Port Authority and the city in order to maintain some public access to the river, and also to maximize our opportunities for grants. At the last legislative session, our representatives and Senator Rasmussen were able to get legislation put in that carved out $4 million for use on the dairy site. That $4 million goes to cover the acquisition of the site from the Port Authority to the city. That cost is $1.2 million, again, from the state money. The remainder of those dollars goes toward ensuring that the train crossings are updated. We're still working on exactly what that looks like with the railroad, and then doing some site planning for the trail, and then actually building out the trail on the river buffer parcel. So what's in front of you tonight, and what has already been agreed to at the port level, is the transfer of this property between the port and the city. Again, the acquisition price is $1.2 million, coming out of that $4 million from the state of Minnesota.
Thank you. Would somebody care to make that resolution?
I'll make that.
I'll second that.
Scott, Kwame, and Laura Job. Discussion?
At the time of the sale, where does that money go? From the,
From the port, well, it's a grant.
yes?
So once the transaction is approved, then we will file paperwork with the state of Minnesota to get the funds, and that fund will go to the Port Authority.
Correct.
Your Honor, into the dairy property project budget
Yep.
to
Okay.
fund the demolition and some of those
Okay.
activities.
I didn't know if it was tied to a grant and had to go back, or, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Just for, following up a little bit on Dwayne's questions on the dairy property, as Clara mentioned, we are down to final negotiation with the railroad on the crossings. We have a proposal from them, which we're still, I think we're close to getting that done, but within this grant, there was $1.4 million to be used to fund those crossings. And then basically, the other monies would then be to physically do the trail. And obviously, these are state funds that obviously have no recourse once the crossing's done. Yeah.
Can I address the council on one
Sure.
question? Part of that is the trail going along the easement of Otter Tail Valley Railroad?
No, it will go along the river.
No, yeah, yes.
Oh.
I understand the dairy
Oh,
property.
no,
But
the behind the houses on Stanton
Yeah.
and the crossing. At this point, no. The railroad say they don't want that trail going into there. They're not prepared to give an easement for that to happen there.
So then it's going to go back to the council and it's going to go back down Stanton?
Yeah, most likely, unless they change their minds.
On the street, not in your yard.
No, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So we're not going to cut the yard up.
okay.
Yep.
I was wondering.
Yeah. No. So it is obviously moving, and as I say, we got those funds from the state that we need to consume. So with that, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of claims in the amount of $2,665,379.54.
I'll offer that.
Thank you. I suppose we're in. Laurel, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Obviously, in the absence of Finance Director, Andrew will answer any questions fully and comprehensively. With that, roll call.
Missed your chance.
Yes.
What was the second item on the third page, fourth down?
Sorry, Mark.
We voted.
Did you have a question, Mo? No. Right. Right. If not, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Right. The next item on the agenda is a roll call, a retreat recap. I think Andrew's going to kick that off, and then there'll probably be some additional comments from others.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Members, Mark will probably get me back here on this one. That's fair game. But I'm going to kick us off. Feel free to jump in wherever with, all of you being present for that. You certainly know what we're talking about. And the purpose of the recap is to give the public an update as to how the retreat went and what the topics that were discussed. Well, back on January 6th, the first meeting of the year, Mayor Hicks asked each of you to give kind of your 3 to 5 priorities for the community and things you want to see accomplished over the next few years. And using that as a basis for planning this retreat, it became pretty evident to myself, the mayor, and others that were involved that there was a real shared interest or goal related to economic development. So we gave the retreat on February 7th a real heavy focus on economic development. And leading up to that, as we planned what that day could look like and be most productive, I don't remember exactly how it came to be, but we talked about engaging the services of Dan and Lisa Malmstrom with North Point Professionals. Dan and Lisa are from Battle Lake. Many people may know Dan and Lisa. He's originally from Fergus Falls, but has a really impressive business background and track record, starting with being instrumental in Great Plains Software prior to Microsoft acquiring that company, growing several businesses from the ground up, including Douglas Scientific and others, and really has an entrepreneurial mind and spirit. But now, kind of in the fun years of his life, he's doing some of the facilitation work. And so it was really kind of a really interesting intersection of his skill sets and experiences that could come in to serve the purpose of the retreat. And I think that everybody would agree that that really worked out well. So with that, there was several conversations had around economic development. There was a SWOT analysis, which is focusing on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to economic development in Fergus Falls. There was a lot of conversation about case studies related to economic development or things that Dan and Lisa had been involved in, including the transformation of Battle Lake, the Alexandria School District, and some of the things they've done in Alexandria. Economic opportunities in Wapaton and Alexandria, and then a number of other just kind of anecdotal examples that I think were helpful for us in terms of being able to wrap our heads around, creating a community vision and using that community vision to spur economic development and next steps related to economic development. So one of the things that we did that day was list our inherent assets for Fergus Falls, things that are unique to Fergus Falls that make us stand apart, as kind of a starting point or a basis for which you formulate economic development strategies where you can set yourself apart from other communities. And some of the things that we talked about were related to, having 4 or 5 interstate exits, the convergence of highways 2, 10, and 59, the Otter Tail River, the regional treatment center, existing manufacturing, and a community college. One of the things that we talked heavily about is creating tax base opportunities, making the pie bigger, so all the people who are currently here or participating in that see their burden shift down. And also creating an export economy. And what I mean by that is, creating goods and services that can be sold to other communities, regions, areas that bring dollars back into the community, new dollars into the community, rather than simply circulating dollars within the community. So really, I think insightful conversations. I wish we had more time. We kind of ran out of time, but had good discussion and good participation. And I think it was the consensus of the council, at least from my takeaway, was to see if there's further work that we can do with Dan and Lisa and North Point professionals on creating a ground-up vision for the community, really engaging members of our community. In the Battle Lake example, there were 30 community members that were appointed, and they did a ton of visioning work and really creating that from the ground up, an organic vision for the community. And the city and the council and other players in the community certainly play a role, but the focus was pretty clear that it was community-led, community-driven, and not simply top-down prescription from the council to the community, which created a lot of buy-in in the examples that he worked through. So I'll maybe stop there in relation to that. We also had a real quick conversation in the afternoon about the capital improvement plan, which will continue to be before the council at future meetings. But as we talked about about a year ago, we laid out a really aggressive, fast track, I think is the words we used, plan that gets more and more streets done on a more aggressive timeline. And talking through how do we fund that? Is that a tax levy supported initiative? Identifying the impacts to utility funds with doing some of that work. And ultimately, there wasn't a solution that day, but that Bill and others will bring that back before the city council. And then just some other minor topics, which I think everybody feels needs additional discussion, but we broached the subject of cities' communications and then ultimately this visioning process. So that's kind of my takeaway. I thought it was a really productive day. I appreciate everybody's participation and insights. I think giving everybody the ability to share their thoughts helps to create a kind of more cohesive vision, and I think we left there feeling pretty good about that day. And the feedback I heard was consistent with that. One of the things that I have on the agenda this evening is if the council wishes to talk about what this visioning concept may look like, and this would be very similar to, like I mentioned, Battle Lake and other communities that have gone through this process. But I'm asking for direction to seek out a proposal from Dan and Lisa laying out what that would look like, the cost of that, which would then come back before the council if they wish to proceed with that. I did ask some questions, and others did as well at the retreat, and it sounds like that would be about a 3 to 4 month process from start to finish, with the expectation that those 30 members of the community, or whatever that looks like, would meet at least every other week pretty consistently and aggressively throughout that timeline to keep things moving along. And then the deliverables would be relatively shortly after that process concludes. So if that's the direction of the council, I'm happy to bring that back before you for consideration and to see what that looks like. If not, I would look for further direction as to how we kind of bring things forward as it relates to this conversation on economic development, because I think that continues to be the priority and the focus of everybody on the council. And Mayor, I think you have more to add.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I think you obviously touched on quite a few of the points that equally I had, but I think one of the pieces that we discussed was ultimately making the taxable capacity of the city bigger. That's been pretty static over the last 3 years, and we're actually seeing a shift from the percentage of what residential is contributing versus commercial, and that's obviously something that we need to obviously look at as well. And I think as much as obviously we need to kind of gain the vision and a collaboration of the community, and I think that I know some of those haven't necessarily always gone the best in the past, but I think we can look at probably asking each council member to kind of bring somebody forward to help get some diversity in that group of people that would help in that vision process. I think the other thing that we have to look at is, alternate methods. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing time and time again. And so, just because this is the way that, it was done before doesn't mean to say it's the same way that we do it again. So I think that, looking at what other methods that there are of doing economic development is also a must. And then we also have to look at how do we fund it and how do we measure progress. And I think that's one of the other things that it's very hard and very difficult to, in terms of economic development, to say, if you put it purely on jobs, then that's such a hard number to quantify. Whereas if you actually looked at what it would do to the tax base and building the pie bigger so that the cost of operating the city gets spread amongst more players, that would be a good way of doing it. And what we're proposing is that we would have 2 additional mornings on Wednesday the 12th or Wednesday the 26th for a 2-hour session to further those discussions about how do we go forward with economic development. Because I think, one of the things that we started out at the retreat was, what does economic development mean to each and every one of us? And we all have something different as to what that means. So, it was a good discussion, but we spent a lot of time talking about it, and we didn't get to some of the other things. So we are going to have a series of work sessions prior to council meetings to knock off some of those other items that didn't get discussed on that particular day. But I think at this point in time, obviously, yes, city administrator is requesting a motion to direct staff to get a proposal from North Point. It's not a commitment. It is purely a proposal. And if we have those additional discussions, in March, then that would help shape the direction of where we want to go. I don't know anybody else that was at the retreat maybe would care to add comments.
I'll make that motion first, and then we'll get a discussion.
Yep, thank you.
I'll second that.
Scott, Rachel, and Laura. Discussion on the particular motion, or do you want to just?
Over the last 12 years I've been on, or 10 years I've been on here, I guess, we've never had a vision, and I never heard of a vision before that. I think this, after listening to Dan and Lisa,
They did an excellent job of what a vision is and how we can accomplish it. You know, he just, you know, there's not set, everything's gonna be different, everybody is different, but he has a very well-mannered way of getting it across to us. And so I think it's a very good discussion to get down this path and get very aggressive like you got, Anthony. There's a funding mechanism, I believe, in the budget. We could fund this under economic development. So I think the funding is going to be, it's not going to hurt the taxpayer at all. It's there already. It depends on the cost, I think, that, but yeah, we'll get that answer out of Andrew. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to get after it and then look for people from this community to get in, because he really specified, you know, it's us to start, but we're not the driver, the council. We're not the driver at all. It'd be just us to start it and get it going, so.
Anybody got any other discussion on this particular piece? And then we can open it up to other discussions about economic development.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Your Honor. Say I wasn't at the retreat, and I regret that. I had other commitments with patients and different things, but I heard from everybody that I had spoke with that this was a very positive type of situation with this individual. And I think knowing who he is and the things that they've done in the community of Battle Lake and other areas and his success this is definitely something that has to be looked at. Definitely has to be looked at in my opinion. Now, two things about that, to that lady's response. It has to be looked at with what the cost is, as one, and also it has to be looked at as this is an adjunct activity to other things that I think we have to do as a community and a council to do it. But one of the things I've learned in business, if you want to succeed, you've got to get people around you that are smarter than you. And I think this individual and this type of thing, if it's within a budget or something we can do, is that type of a situation.
I would also like to make a comment too about that. Just, I was there, and it was inspiring, and it was great to hear, and it was motivating, and I think we all can say yes to that. There again, too, I think it's one of the facets that we're going to have to use or look at it, but I think there's also other ones too that we can bring in-house here, which, you know, what we're trying to do is build a team to help with our economic development. And usually it's not one person or one type of entity, and I think this is a great start. And I also agree that we need to look at these other engines that can help drive this.
So we have a motion regarding the visionary plan proposal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. The motion is approved. Anybody have anything else on economic development?
I do, Your Honor. I don't know if you want to have it brought up now or if you want it under new business or anything, but I have a number of motions that I'd like to go through. So if the council could bear with me, I'd like to discuss a few of them. Is this appropriate time, Your Honor?
I think if they're relating to economic development?
Yeah, they are, specifically. So one of the things that I sit up here, elected by the 3rd Ward, is everything to do with business. And being a business owner, entrepreneur in the city, it means everything to me. So that's the catalyst to why I'm bringing these things up here tonight, is to take my hometown, where my grandfather grew up in the 1870s, all the way 5th generation, and try to make this a strong economic hub for the region. And I know that sounds maybe unusual, but that is my ultimate goal, to be on this council. One of the things that I would like to see, if my colleagues here on the council would at least entertain it, I would like to start the discussion specifically on the 12th and the 26th to bring economic development or business strategic development back in-house to the city. I would like to see the city have some direction and control over where we go with economic development. Many times this is done with an economic director that will have a 9-person board, and they will work very closely with city administration as an employee, but they also work very closely with the council. And if we can pattern that to work with the last individual we're talking with, I think that's very important. One of the things you look for with economic development when you bring it in-house is we need to have somebody that's very good with land acquisition, very good with land leases, knows the grant process, and they will actually guide us through the TIF process, whether someone is a likely candidate for TIF or if they're not. The other thing that I'm looking for is, if we would to bring this in-house, and my colleagues here would agree, is I'm looking for us to be a regional connection. I'm not looking for us to be one city, one person sitting out here on an island. I'm looking for economic development that will couple itself with Fargo, Moorhead, Dilworth, West Fargo, Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, St. Cloud, and all of those aspects. So I'm looking for us to be broader and bigger than we've probably ever been in the future. I also need someone to be able to walk through the city process with a new business that comes. We have great individuals in the city, but we need someone that will say, hey, this is coming, this is what my conversation has been, and they walk through it. One of the things that was disheartening for me here recently, and I've been working on this since the day I was elected, is there was a steel company that wanted to be on I-94 in Minnesota, and they looked at St. Cloud, they looked at Alexandria, and they bypassed Fergus Falls and ended up in West Fargo. And I don't ever want my community again to be sitting here bypassed for economic development. And so this is very important to me. I hope my council will consider it. I'm making a motion that we start the process of discussing a director of business strategic development here in the city.
I'd second that.
We already have Clara here. What you just described is what she does for us. And so I'm not sure where you guys are going with this. It doesn't make any sense to me at all, what you just said. But it's not, it's the same thing what she does for us, and she does a great job for us. So I'm not sure what that means.
No, I have no qualms with what Clara does for the city, and I won't put Clara on the spot tonight to do anything like that.
No, and I don't want to talk to it. I don't want to do that either. But this is between you and I. I don't believe that what we're doing there is what you're. I mean, I just don't think that's a one-person operation. We've tried it before, or we'll discuss. We'd be more happy to talk this through. But everything you just said, Clara does for us, and she does a great job for us. So.
Your Honor, there's a motion.
Any other comments or discussion? Scott?
I think that it's not necessarily a bad suggestion to look at the things that you've brought up, Mike, but I think that what we were working toward with the possibility of visioning and working with the community and all that, if we go through that process and it leads us to the things that you've suggested, great. But I think that that should be first. And I don't know that starting this process that you've suggested simultaneously with that is a good way to go. I think I would prefer to see us pursue the visioning process that's been laid out and see where we go with that. And if that brings us to the direction that you've suggested, fine. But I would prefer that we go through that step first.
Laura?
So I guess my concern, and I know that this would have to be part of the discussion, is the financial piece of this and how we would be able to financially support this. Coming off a tax levy, that's, still fresh in my mind. So that would just be, I think, have to be a part of that big conversation.
Your Honor. Yeah. I guess I don't disagree that we may end with someone in-house. I think that was something that was brought up at the retreat, and that, Dan and Lisa said, keep all your options on the table, and I think that was pretty clear. I'm concerned about giving direction to staff before we have a plan, because if I was applying for that job, I guess I'd want to know what I was applying to do or what the plan was. And so I have a little concern about the horse in front of the cart in some ways, and I think the funding, I'd like to have a clear picture of what that would look like, I guess. And I echo that. I think some of these things that were listed, what Councilmember Rachel said, we have someone that is doing them now, and we need to figure out how everything works together so we're doing it in a way that makes sense.
Can we just get clarification on your motion?
You bet. The motion was just to discuss it. just to take it back on the 12th and 26th. We're not hiring anybody. We're not doing anything. We're appreciating Clara very much. It is just a motion to start the discussion of this process for the city as a group, so we can see if this is an option that would be effective for the community.
We should get a second.
I did.
What did you-
I guess too is to discuss it. That's the key term here. And if we're not willing to discuss all these different facets, we're in trouble. I think we need to look at every bit of it. I think we need to be able to discuss freely instead of squelching it right at this point. I don't think that's fair to the people of Fergus Falls. You know, we know, and I don't know if we ever came up with that number, what the tax ratio is to business and to private people. A healthy one is 70% business and 30% residential. I don't believe we're anything near that, but I have not heard any number on that yet since the retreat. So I want to try any and all avenues to make economic development work. Thank you.
Do we need a motion to have a discussion?
I don't, I mean,
That's what I was just gonna say, why do we need a motion to put something like this to talk about it? There's no reason to. We're gonna go meet in this meeting, we're gonna have a great discussion. We don't need a motion to direct it.
I don't know.
Why would you do that?
The reason I do that is because Anthony stood, our city administrator, in front of us here at the Committee of the Whole, gave a great presentation, which I respected very much, and he asked us, I'm not sure you were here that morning, he asked us as a council, please put together a motion so it's not one rogue council member doing it. So what I'm trying to do is see if the council has an appetite to discuss this going forward. That's why the motion was in place.
I think basically what Mike is kind of doing is helping write the agenda for the 12th and the 26th, essentially.
Is it and or or?
Sorry?
Is it and or or?
Are we doing both dates?
One or the other?
I think,
2 days or
I
one
think
day?
you probably will go into both days.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know how to
vote on
take it.
both days.
Okay, that's how I did too.
So basically, we have a motion on the table to kind of basically put this on the agenda for the 12th / the 26th. So,
Discussion only.
yeah, for discussion only, yeah.
I'm just curious, so those 2 dates you mentioned, so are those open to the public?
They are.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
And they will be at 7 o'clock in the morning through to 9 o'clock.
I'm not so excited about that, but I am glad they're open to the public.
No, they will be. So,
That's the key to this.
Yep, yep.
You know, no, the key to this is, I don't like getting up early either, but the key to this is, you know, so you can be part of this process. Because that's how we're going to win, you guys. I honestly believe that. And if we can move forward, we all have to be a part of this. And that's why I want to have this discussion with different entities and about different entities. And that was talked about at the retreat also.
So, Dwayne's coming up.
Dwayne Cookman, being that I work during those times, is there a vehicle, like you have Zoom calls or something like that, that we can send in questions?
I don't know whether there'll be I don't know whether we can.
It'll be live streamed on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, but if I had a question and I'm watching it live, I would like to perhaps maybe have a question that was presented to the council while not being here live.
Yeah. I don't know how we.
Text it to Al, he's been pretty savvy tonight with his phone.
Yeah. It's been in my pocket.
Okay.
Early.
Outside of probably sending a text message to one of us.
Okay.
That'll probably be.
That would not
That's a
be, it would
vehicle.
not be rude to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
To send a text message to any one of us.
Yeah.
Hold it,
Okay.
hold it.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, I
okay,
was
maybe
gonna
I'm
say.
overstepping.
I have no issue, you know, having text messages, but understand any message you get up here while you're sitting here,
Can be
the
asked
public
for.
has the right to see it.
Yes, no. I
From
don't-
anyone, from
Yeah,
anyone,
yeah.
from anyone. I mean, that's just protocol. I mean, what
Yes.
they see,
Yes.
you should see.
Yes, I agree with that. But I think if the public sees that and they have that input, I think your viewing will grow and you'll have more input.
I think on this particular subject, obviously, like at a council meeting, that's more challenging to do. But-
Right. I'm just
but
talking
you
about
just-
those 2 dates.
Yep. Because that's, I mean, the goal of that is to come out of it and, as you say, have an engagement, and then where are we going forward, and how do we get more
Yeah.
people involved?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I think, if we look at, where when basically Andrew was selected as kind of administrator, the search firm that did that requested that each council member appoint as sort of a second person. And I think the mayor got to appoint 2 people for that. But that was a way of getting, a different set of people engaged in the conversation about where something goes. And, I think that would be a good way of trying to broaden the range of people that we talk to and get input on. When it's a kind of a specific project, it's a little bit, you end up with biases as towards that, where I think if every council member is helping select somebody, we're going to get a different representation than just, when it's more of a pet type project. So.
Yeah. I was just looking at if you can try to get more input and people are still working.
Yep.
Some people are viewing it
Yep.
and they'd have maybe value.
We won't tell your employer, Dwayne, that you're watching.
I don't care. I'm almost retired, so. But don't tell them that.
Right, thank you for the question. So we have a motion to start the discussion on economic development, covering these basic points, and I won't list all the points that might listed. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign.
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Can we capture who voted no?
Scott voted no.
Scott?
Both.
Pair of Scots.
Pear Scott's.
Your Honor, since that motion passed, I'd like to continue. I have a couple more, if that's all right.
Sure.
Yes, okay. One of the things that Laura brought up, which is very important to this process, and I'm not saying that we're going to have an in-house Director of Business Strategic Development or something on that order, but we have to prepare ourselves as a council if we do go down that route. And one of the key factors is, how do you pay for that? How is that person appointed, and how do we make sure that they're successful? And so my next couple of motions will be in regard to that. So one of the things that I would like to do, I'll get the motion out there, and then I'd like to have a little second to speak if I could. I'll make a motion to, at this time, suspend, and the word is suspend, payments to Greater Fergus Falls. That's a motion.
I'll second that.
Your Honor, I want Greater Fergus Falls to be as successful as they can for many years to come in this community. We have absolutely great members that are on their board. They're business owners. They're stewards of the community. But one of the things, if we are going to look at doing some economic development in-house, which is going to be in conjunction with Greater Fergus Falls also doing that, we have to have the ability to look at where that funding will come from in-house at this time. If we don't do economic development in-house and we don't need some of that Greater Fergus Falls funding, then the council can come back and look at that in a different way. But right now, one of the main goals is, can we get economic development coming from many different spokes in all different ways, and we need to have that ability as a council to have those funds when we look at it, to allow in-house to ensure that we could do that. So that's my
We need
comments.
a second, Your Honor. We need a second.
Leighton did.
Did you do it already? Okay, I'm sorry.
Mayor?
I think we're contractually obligated, so I think it should be a resolution.
Is there discussion?
I was just verifying with.
I'm just going to bring up one point. I mean, I don't know if a motion's the right avenue for this because of the fact that we have contractual relations. So, I mean, if this is something that you're wanting to do, I think that it makes sense if that it be a resolution suspending payments. So I would ask that you consider offering that.
Thank you, Mr. Nicomo. I appreciate that. You're a valuable asset. I make a resolution that we suspend at this time, just payments to Greater Fergus Falls.
Here, here.
Any other comments, Scott?
I think I'm just going to have to make a point of order. This is a significant piece of business that should have been added or not at the beginning as the approval to the agenda was considered, and I think that this should not be allowed to proceed. This conversation should stop.
I concur. It was not on the agenda. This is something that's being added at the end, thrown in there. We have no chance, Greater Fergus Falls that have a chance to come here and stand up for themselves. I don't think this is right to make a motion at the end of the, on economic, I agree, the economic discussion. I agree, let's talk about this. But you can't start making motions on cutting funding from something we already approved on our budget. So I just don't feel it's right here. I agree 100% it's not on the agenda.
I'd like to make a comment, please. From what I understand, it was directed to not make that payment to Greater Fergus Falls. There must have been a reason for that. I look back on the history. We are now, or they are now, looking at their 6th director, I believe, in 5 years, executive director. That's not a healthy
Going
background.
Going
Please,
back.
Scott,
Well,
please.
we're discussing something we shouldn't be discussing. It's not on the agenda, period.
It has to do with economic development.
But this is not something we were making motions and making resolutions.
Mayor, could I finish, please?
Yeah. I'll finish, and then I think Rolf is going to.
Thank you. I think we need to really look at this. And if you don't want to do it now, you can voice that. I'm going to voice it now that we cannot keep delaying these things. We have to move forward. And it'll be next meeting, it'll be next meeting, it'll be next meeting. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greater Fergus Falls said they were waiting to see if they get that money. Is that correct? Or somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
We meet every Wednesday morning for an hour, and part of the discussion is, are we going to get paid or not? And I said, we have to send a bill in to get paid. You're approved to be paid right now. The budget's passed. Send the bill. So I believe the bill will be coming now this week. So.
Well, that's quite a delay from when the budget was passed.
Well, that's fine, but it should have been on the agenda, plain and simple.
Yeah, Mayor, again, the point of a publicly produced packet is so that the public can know what's coming up and be here to be aware of the conversation, to bring in the interested parties, and to have a chance to research things that need to be researched. This clearly needs to be researched, and it's completely out of line to have any kind of a vote on a resolution that is not a part of our agenda.
Yep, the council passed an ordinance on this subject, primarily section 31.27.
You're hard to hear, sorry.
Oh, sorry. The council passed a resolution, or passed an ordinance on this matter some time ago, probably it looks like back in 2008, possibly 2002. And the intent is under section 31.27 is for the city administrator to provide a proposed agenda for the affairs for the business meeting. And then the section B of that ordinance provides that matters that aren't on the agenda, that aren't appropriate to be considered for the meeting, or are not included in the agenda in the order specified shall not be considered except with the unanimous consent of the members of the council. So that means everyone has to agree to the matter to be added to the council after you have approved your agenda. So unless there's unanimous consent to consider these motions probably should be considered at another time. But they certainly should be considered. I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't be considered, but based upon the council procedure at meetings, ordinance, it's pretty clear that there should be unanimous consent of the members to agree to take this on as a subject matter at a meeting when it's not included in the agenda packet.
Exactly. So we could put it on the next meeting as a vote.
Sure can.
Next meeting?
So it'd be on the next meeting would be committee of the whole, or
But we can't vote at that.
But you can't vote, no. So the next council meeting would be March 3rd.
And that would maybe be a good motion to direct that to be on the next city council.
Yeah. I'd make a motion then to put it on the next city council meeting.
Right, so
I'll second that.
Right, thank you. So Al has made a motion, seconded by Laurel, to put this subject matter on the agenda for March 3rd. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against, same sign.
Aye.
Thank you, Scott. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I'd like to make another motion to be put on the next council meeting, if that's all right,
Go ahead.
since we, Committee of the Whole. We're having a great transition here with one of our department heads that is changing in some different things. And so what I would like to have on there is I'd like to discuss a little bit. The motion will be to put it on the next agenda, explore and examine staffing structure to determine the validity and necessity to include department heads. And the reason for this is if we're going to fund economic development, which I think is very vital to this city, paramount for us to grow and do what we need to do, I want the Personnel Committee, the mayor, and the city administrator to look at what are some things that could be changed, whether it's to do with the engineering department under Public Works or Public Works and some different things. I would like the motion to be that that's brought to the next council meeting to be discussed.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mark. Do I have a motion to direct Personnel Committee and the Mayor to discuss organization chart of the city?
So, Your Honor, we're going to discuss engineering and I'm going to just go into what our charter already explains to us. Is that, can I have a clarification maybe on that? Of what the role is of engineering and Public Works and I don't understand where this is coming from for economic development. I'm not sure how that all incorporates in. The staff, or the council directs staff to engineer for the engineering, or what the Public Works Department does. So I don't know where this comes into play for economic development when the engineer is on our staff and he's already there, and we give him direction when we need to. That's kind of where I'm kind of trying to figure out how that's supposed to work. Micromanaging, is that the word we're looking for now to do that? I don't think that's what we're here for. Explain
Your Honor, I can speak to that because I have no idea what Mr. Rachel's just said. I have no idea. But what I'm saying is, if we are going to do economic development in-house, if this council decides to do that, we have to look at every option that we have to make sure that that position is funded, taken care of, and enhanced by our city. And all I'm saying is, I want to look at all of the different, I want you guys to look at the Personnel Committee and the mayor and the city administrator. What are some functions maybe within this building or this city that could be incorporated into one that would be a cost savings to help with our economic development in this city?
Okay, into one.
Into one.
Change, redoing their
And
definition.
the next thing I will talk about will be the same thing, write down economic development to make this successful. You can't just hire someone, put them in a chair, and then expect them to not be cared for, funded, appreciated, and taken care of with the budget that we have.
Your Honor, just one point. As a member of the HR committee, it's my understanding from talking to you as the mayor and the city administrator that we have a directive from you to be looking at the org chart for these positions in our upcoming meeting. There was going to be one today, and due to other circumstances, that got changed, that's happening on the HR committee level already, and we have directive to do that. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yeah.
As long as you're going to do that, Your Honor, and you're going to do it with the Personnel Committee, I'll rescind my motion.
Thank you. So, any other new business, Andrew? Nothing? Right, we have some miscellaneous announcements. Obviously, February 26th, Committee of the Whole. March 3rd is the next council meeting. We will be adjourning to a closed session to consider a potential real estate transaction for 522 Hampton Avenue, as allowed under Minnesota Statute 13D.05. And we will be coming back into open session regarding the decision that's made during that closed meeting. So this portion of the meeting, one moment.
I say one thing. We've got great employees across all departments, but I just want to shout out to some water and street department crews who are going to be working through this cold, bitter, 40 below wind chill night repairing a water main. So thanks to those guys.
They're over by Lake
front of my
Alice,
house.
aren't
Yeah.
Yep.
It might not be the best night of sleep for
Today, I
some.
thought, here we go again.
As long as they're in the sort of the northeast corner and making plenty of flashing lights and beeping noises as they go backwards and forwards, that's fine.
Keep them away from that
Yep.
central part.
Yep.
Your Honor, I'd like to echo that. I want to thank the city employees for their service to the city. I can't thank them enough for what they do. They're making us the best that they can be. Doesn't matter if they're in the basement of this building or in the maintenance garage. I'm committed to making this city one of the best places for them to work, and that's where this discussion comes from. I can't speak for the whole council, but I assume that most would agree that we are here for that tonight, so I appreciate all of them.
Right. This portion of the meeting is adjourned.